The story of World War II is often framed through strategy, weaponry, and sweeping movements of armies. But one quiet struggle shaped every soldier's ability to endure, think, and survive: the fight for sleep. Before we get into these 7 forgotten sleep methods pulled from diaries, field manuals, and testimonies that rarely make it into mainstream documentaries, make sure you subscribe to the channel and share this video so more serious history buffs can access material that goes beyond the usual surface-level storytelling. When you dig deep into first-hand accounts, you find men sleeping next to tank engines still hot from battle, pilots napping in 6-minute bursts before another night sortie, submarine crews learning to doze in rotating shifts only a few feet from torpedo racks, and resistance fighters using primitive psychological techniques to shut down their minds while hiding in freezing barns. Sleep wasn't a luxury. It was a tactical tool. Soldiers who mastered it gained clearer judgment, steadier hands, and significantly higher chances of survival. What they figured out under brutal circumstances is surprisingly useful today for anyone serious about preparedness, long expeditions, or simply understanding the real human mechanics of warfare. So, let's get into these 7 methods with the seriousness they deserve. The first method is learning to sleep in short, disciplined microcycles when full rest is impossible. Bomber crews and night fighters, especially in the RAF and Luftwaffe, relied on fragmented rest because missions arrived unpredictably. Combat diaries describe men training themselves to fall asleep within 60 seconds and waking naturally within 6 to 10 minutes. This wasn't luck, it was a conditioned response. They practiced relaxing the jaw, lowering the shoulders, and breathing in a narrow pattern that slowed the pulse rapidly. A practical, modern application for survivalists is simple. Rehearse falling asleep under controlled conditions with a timer until the body accepts rapid shutdown as a normal pattern. It sounds small, but in a disaster scenario, being able to gain real rest in minutes rather than hours gives you a measurable advantage. Now, the second method is using ground warmth and that leftover heat from machinery to survive those bitterly cold nights. Infantry on both fronts, you see, learn to sleep near tank hulls, truck engines, or even ammunition crates that had been warmed by the sun during the day. This wasn't about comfort. It was, quite frankly, about survival. Soviet soldiers on the Eastern Front, for example, would often sleep in shallow pits scraped near the sides of T-34 engines, which radiated heat long after they'd been shut down. The trick, though, was always balancing how close you got to the warmth, so you didn't end up inhaling fumes or, worse, getting burned. As an actionable example for modern fieldcraft, you can actually pre-warm your rest surfaces by heating stones or metal gear in the sun. It's the same principle, really, and it can drastically reduce the energy your body spends just keeping warm. The third method, right, is synchronizing your sleep with what I'd call artillery rhythms. Both Allied and Axis soldiers, especially on those static fronts, learned that bombardments tended to come in, well, predictable cycles. Diaries from the Italian campaign, for instance, mention men timing their rest to the pauses between enemy salvos. They weren't just hoping for a bit of quiet, they actually studied the firing intervals like clockwork. Now, this is an overlooked psychological discipline. Instead of fighting the environment, they adapted to its pace. And you can apply this today in places with recurring noise, like industrial zones or areas with regular storms, by matching your rest periods to those natural lulls. rather than trying to fight through the noise. The fourth method comes from the Navy, and it's the practice of compartment rest under constant motion. Submarine crews, in particular, perfected the art of falling asleep in violently shifting conditions. Veterans would describe focusing on a single physical anchor point, maybe one corner of the bunk, a bit of piping, or even a fold in the blanket, to steady the brain, even as the body rocked in every direction. The technique works because the mind, you see, latches onto that one stable reference and in doing so reduces the overall sensory load. If you want to test this yourself, just choose one fixed focal point when you're trying to sleep in a moving vehicle or during a storm. And really discipline your mind to treat that reference as absolutely immovable. The fifth method is controlled cooling of the face to trigger sleep in extreme heat. In North Africa and the Pacific, heat made sleep almost unreachable. Soldiers found that dabbing the forehead, cheekbones, and the back of the neck with cool water reduced internal irritability, enough to fall asleep even when temperatures stayed above 30 degrees Celsius at night. It wasn't the water itself, but the neurological effect of cooling the trigeminal nerve pathways. This translates directly to modern heat management. Cool the face first, not the whole body, and rest becomes possible. The sixth method is cognitive shutoff through repetitive mental cues. Resistance fighters and partisans, hiding in barns or forests, often couldn't afford deep sleep. They used short mental sequences, counting backward, repeating a single word, or focusing on a rhythmic phrase, to block intrusive thoughts and anxiety. This wasn't meditation as we know it. It was tactical mental control. When applying this today, pick a phrase or number sequence and practice until it reliably reduces your mental noise level. The key is repetition until it becomes instinctive. The seventh method is paired sleeping for threat detection and warmth. In trenches, foxholes and mountain positions, two men often slept in rotational half-sleep cycles. One would stay semi-alert while the other slept deeper, and then they rotated naturally as each drifted in and out. The body stays warmer, security improves, and both individuals maintain enough cognitive sharpness to function. For survivalists, this is a reminder that rest strategies must sometimes be team-based. Practicing paired rest cycles during training builds trust and efficiency. These 7 methods remind us that survival in wartime wasn't just about firepower. It was about mastering the fundamentals of human endurance under conditions most of us can barely comprehend. If you want more historically grounded survival insights backed by real field testimonies, make sure you subscribe, share this video, and help keep this channel a home for serious history enthusiasts who value depth over spectacle.